Where are you going to stand, babe? Same. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay.
I prefer that side, but it's
Really?
too late already.
Okay. No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
Fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just get you a little bit tighter?
Yes.
Is that like? Yeah. Because I'm trying to get them to not cut you out too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
It's fine. I don't want to
too much.
yes.
Yes.
But yeah, fine.
And then just so you guys know, there's going to be walkthrough this way. Can you
No,
tuck in for
just
me
make
a
another
little
shoulder
bit?
going into the front.
Just a little. Just while they get in.
Okay.
Does he have an iPad? He said he had a advanced thing.
On the screen. You want this?
Oh, that's it.
I can leave them here. Yes.
Nah, but it's okay.
Yes.
I know we all suck at that.
Yeah. I can call them.
Up, but
Okay. Oops. God, Mayor gotta come in. Is there space? See what took up for me? Tight, yeah. Okay. And then I'm gonna sneak this way when I'm done. I'm gonna sneak this way when I'm done. Okay. Okay. Ano ai ke aloha kako. Thank you for joining us today during this most difficult time, especially for the people of Maui. We are here to provide you with the latest updates and information from the county, the state, and our federal partners as it relates to the wildfires throughout Maui. At this time, I'd like to invite Governor Josh Green to share his remarks.
Aloha. So it's an impossible day for us all, and our hearts are with Maui after they've suffered this tragedy. Today is also a day of arrival. It's an arrival of a great deal of services and promises to you. As we shared 2 days ago, the mayor and I want to be very available to tell you what we're seeing, what we can do, what our people are experiencing, and so we appreciate you. We appreciate your patience because the hard work that's going on behind the scenes is extraordinary. So once again, as we've done before, we want to recognize the work that our fire, our police, now our FEMA teams, and so many other public servants are doing, because the things that they're seeing and the things that our families have experienced are unlike any other experience. So that is why we're trying to be cautious. So I want to share that with you. I have a few slides today to frame our conversation, but here is what our message is. Our message is silence your phones, please. Our message is that we are working as a team. It is rare that we see this level of government leadership all come together. You've heard that we've been in contact at the highest level, and the President has been generous with us beyond measure. But to send the head of FEMA to be with us, who you get to meet in person, the head of the Small Business Association, these are individuals that will be able to describe to you what we can do to help recover, to help heal as a community. So I'm going to get into that in a moment. You're all wondering what we saw on the ground today. There have been more fatalities. The chief will unpack this a little bit more, what they've been seeing, studying, what we've been uncovering. There are 89 fatalities that have been measured. Now, we were here just 2 days ago, and the number was smaller, and it's going to continue to rise. We want to brace people for that. But because of this scale of this operation, we're doing a few things. Let me see if I can pop this slide for you. I may not be able to. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so it's a complicated experience that we faced. So we are going to do some reviews so that we can make things safer going forward. People have asked why we are reviewing what's gone on. It's because the world has changed. A storm now can be a hurricane fire or a fire hurricane. That's what we experienced. That's why we're looking into these policies, to find out how we can best protect our people. It's an emerging picture. Here we go. If you look at what's been seen now, in West Maui, 2,200 structures have been destroyed or damaged. 86% are residential. In Kula, 544 structures have been exposed, and 96% were residential. The losses approach $6 billion in estimate. The extraordinary thing is to have this leadership from DC. They can begin to look at how we can rebuild, but also how we can get resources to our people who have lost almost everything. Now, the maps show one snapshot of what has happened here. And I'm going to give you this. But these are the human realities. Last night, through the extraordinary work of the mayor, his team, 1,418 people received shelter. But that's also in the backdrop of the loss of life. We're grateful that people have survived. If you go to the shelters, and you should go to the shelters and talk to people,
We're not allowed in.
on the outside, you can.
Stand by. Thank you. This is not the Q&A portion. Mahalo.
Yes, you'll be able to see their faces as they come out, and we as a community can support them. We can donate to them. We ask for a lot of understanding about travel into the zone where the fire occurred, and the reason for that is the health consequences. We have to go with caution. There are heavy metals there. There are toxic states where the houses have come down and the businesses have come down. The recommendations are to avoid those structures because they could still fall on people, and we've lost too much life already. There are propane tanks there. There's really a lot of hazard. Now, what have we been doing? We've been distributing food in great amounts. For those who have seen, those are the kind of the pictures where thousands and thousands of pounds of water and food have come. Ritz-Carlton and the Lahaina Gateway have been distributing provisions. The mayor was able to get provisions across the area, and we did open up for those carriers and those trucks to make sure that people could get their services. Also, we have one of our heroes, Chad Buck, who's been organizing and working tirelessly to distribute so much provision, and much of that's also coming from around the state and frankly around the country. Thousands and thousands of pounds of food have been donated and are coming and are basically en route. Now, we should talk to you a little bit about energy. Maui Electric will give us lots more updates, but we've had 1 out of 3 transmission lines restored, meaning 3,700 customers got their energy back. One of the challenges, I should share this with you. One of the challenges is that as much as we would like to get people into hotel rooms, and we're going to be talking about that here in a moment, we have some good news about that, we still have to make sure they have power there, because we don't want to move people from a place where they do have power, where they do have working bathrooms, to a place that they don't. So that's coming online very quickly. The scope of the transfer was extraordinary. Almost 15,000 passengers per day were flown out. It makes our recovery work quite a lot easier, and that's why people have left most of that region. We still have people staying at the airport. People are making decisions as to when they feel they're ready to go. A lot of people are stunned. They're traumatized, and they're traumatized by what they see our people going through. Now, Mayor Bissen is spearheading this effort in Maui, and we commend him because the workload is extraordinary. For that reason, we're bringing some support. So when you look at the support that we can offer, there it is. He coordinates this effort, but we have additional military support that has arrived. 50 National Guardmen have arrived today. You'll see many more coming in the days ahead. And that's important because when we have those actual National Guard individuals in service and also some active duty military, and we're going to meet these gentlemen today, it makes it more possible for us to protect certain areas so people can do their work at ground zero, but then also open up the road, make it easier for all of us to travel to the places that we're familiar with. That's a big part of this operation. You're also going to meet the director of FEMA, and they already have 150 people on the ground, 90 assisting in search and rescue. I will leave it to the leadership there. Deanne is an extraordinary individual, And it's amazing to see her in that top post and the experiences she's had across many tragedies, including the COVID tragedy in New York, makes her supremely positioned to help us here. You're going to meet our commanders, and they, in turn, will run the task force, but they can do so much to bring this community into a safer place. Now, DAGS is working for state federal space. We're negotiating for additional facilities, but I think what people are most interested in is housing, how we're going to house our people. So we've put together a temporary housing task force which will work with our federal partners. We've already secured 1,000 rooms. 500 rooms will go to families that have been displaced because of the terrible fire. Another 500 rooms to go to support initially. Then coming after that, in the days that follow, we'll have long-term rentals. Those are the short-term rentals turned long-term now. All of that's going to be covered. It's going to be covered by the state. Some of it's going to be given charitably. And then finally, FEMA will cover a great deal of the cost. Now, these are detailed, complicated questions, so they're going to be here on the ground to explain it to our people and to explain it to us. But this will get us into a housing post. What we'd like to do is get people in as early as now. But without power, without stable power, once again, it will be likely tomorrow or Monday when we see the largest number of people get into housing. I can assure you it's going to be a great relief for the incredible volunteers that are in the field. A couple more questions that people have had. What do we do long term? How do we do this? We give people vouchers, we get them into their housing, but what we also have to do is we have to find resources for them. And in order to do that, you're going to see state funds, federal funds, in the billions of dollars over time. But we also want to make that resource available immediately. And so FEMA will be describing that to you. If people want to donate, once again, please go to the many websites. One of them is the Hawaii Community Foundation. It's Maui Strong. You'll see that there. Tens of millions of dollars are coming in. And that's going to be distributed to our people. So thank you. Thank you for that. I'll just close with this. This is the largest natural disaster we've ever experienced. It's going to also be a natural disaster that's going to take an incredible amount of time to recover from. So in the next few days, as we characterize how many people we've lost and how many people are coming into our community, please understand that we come at this like an ohana, because it's going to be, in the short term, heartbreaking. In the long term, people are going to need mental health care services. In the very long term, we'll rebuild together. That's why we brought this team together, and we appreciate your patience. We will continue to do these conversations so that the world knows what Maui is going through. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor. I'm going to remind everybody here today, we are the state of aloha, and so we ask kindly that you please operate under the value of aloha, which is respect. Question and answers will come when we are done with remarks, which I had gone through with media already. Okay? Mahalo nui for your cooperation. Give me a second to reset, and we will continue on. Mahalo, Governor. Next, I would like to welcome Maui County Mayor Richard Bissen.
Aloha. Mahalo, first of all, for the outpouring of support from the people across our state and, in fact, the world. Most especially from our local community, those who have lost loved ones and homes, who are still pulling together to help others. Our local people know this community better than anyone, and they've truly taken the lead in getting support to those in need. We see this as a local-led, government-supported response. Just as you've heard from the governor and you'll hear from our federal partners, they're here to help us with the needs that we have. We know we have a lot to do. We're doing our very best to address the needs and our concerns. We're moving from the immediate fire response to long-term recovery, and we'll be adjusting our operations accordingly. And that means we're moving food distribution points closer into communities where people are sheltered in place. We're working on long-term shelter needs, as the governor's just shared. We have established a family center and Red Cross hotline to help connect our families to each other. We are working to get more first responders, medical care, and community partners into our impacted areas. Our utility partners are continuing to work hard to restore power and phone service. We are managing the highway closure point to ensure that access into the impact zone is limited to those critical responders, those that are providing necessary goods and services out there. Lastly, we're expanding our flight service to help our visitors return home. That opens up resources for our residents. In the coming days, we will see a larger presence of the National Guard personnel. These folks are here to help us. This event is larger than us, and we need and we welcome their help. We're on a long road to recovery, but I assure you we will recover working together. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Mayor Richard Bissen. At this time, we'd like to welcome Deanne Criswell, Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator. Administrator Criswell.
Thank you. Aloha. On behalf of President Biden, I just wanted to start by expressing how deeply impacted we know this community is, and that our prayers are with everybody that has been impacted by this truly, truly tragic event. And I had the opportunity today to spend the day with Governor Green and see firsthand really what this devastation is. And you know, as I was watching this over the news over the last few days, and you can see how tragic it is, it really doesn't put it, you know, into a full picture until you're on the ground and you see just the level of devastation that this community has experienced. I mean, so I had the opportunity today to talk with both the governor and Mayor Bissen about what their needs were. And this is really why I came. I needed to be able to see firsthand what the challenges are going to be, talk to the governor, talk to the mayor, to hear what their concerns are and what resources they are going to need as we go forward. But then I also wanted to talk to the people that have been impacted. And so I had an opportunity to go to the War Memorial Shelter and talk to those families who have been staying there. And I heard their stories. I heard their harrowing stories of escape, evacuating, then evacuating again, a car that was caught on fire, then they got into somebody else's car. Yet what I always find, even during these incredibly tragic times, is this resilience of a community to come together and support each other. And that's what I saw at the shelter today. Even amidst all this tragedy, there were neighbors helping neighbors. And it's this human spirit coming together that always gives me hope that we are going to be able to rebuild and make sure that these communities that have been impacted will become even better in the future. You know, and I had a chance to talk to Koa, who led us around the shelter today, and this is another great example of community resiliency. Here's a county employee who does not do disaster preparedness as his day job, but is now leading the shelter and managing the shelter and making sure that all of his friends and family and neighbors and the people that live around him have what they need over these first few days, and running this shelter to help them. Again, this is the kind of resiliency that we see in these communities. And so we are going to be here every step of the way to help this community recover. We already, as you heard, already have 150 people on the ground. There will be more coming. We have more search and rescue teams with more dogs that are going to be here over the next day or two. But we can't do this alone. We also bring in all of our federal partners, and the presidential disaster declaration that President Biden signed gives us the ability at FEMA to bring in all of our federal partners. And what you'll see here today is we already have support from the Small Business Administration, the Army Corps of Engineers, our U.S. Fire Administrator, the Department of Defense, the Coast Guard, HHS, many more. And we will continue to bring in all of our federal partners as we better understand what's going to be needed to go through this recovery process. For those of you who have not registered yet for FEMA assistance, I strongly encourage you to do so. Contact your insurance company, and then you can go to disasterassistance.gov, or you can call 1-800-621-FEMA. You can find us at the shelters, and we will have people in FEMA shirts that will be walking around helping you register. Or if you have registered and you still have questions, just ask. We know that this is a trying time, And we are going to have people on the ground that you can talk to face to help you through this process. I know that this is a very troubling time, and there are still many unknowns for people that are out there. But what I would ask is that you don't give in to despair, because we need you. Maui needs you. Hawaii needs you. Your neighbors, they need you. And I believe that every day is going to get a little bit better. And Governor and Mayor, you have my commitment that FEMA and the rest of the federal family will be with you each and every day as you go through this. Thank you.
Mahalo, Administrator Criswell. At this time, I'd like to bring up Maui County Fire Chief Brad Ventura.
Aloha. We'll give you a little bit of an update as to what our crews are engaged in right now and how we'll be embedded moving forward over the next few days. The containment that I mentioned yesterday of the area of impact in Lahaina has not grown. However, it's not completely mopped up and under control. So we're still patrolling a lot of the edges of the fire that are in the brush and in the neighborhoods that are on the outskirts of the perimeter. Our goal right now is to make sure we keep everybody safe and not let the incident expand anymore. We're also embedded with the USAR teams as they do their searches. Our fire department personnel are embedded with them for any type of fire suppression needs as they move through the disaster area. I was able to walk and get on the ground today and talk to some of our firefighters who worked nearly 40 hours on the fire, and some of the stories that they told were extremely heroic. We're very proud of what they've done. We're very proud of their efforts, and they're still wanting to come to work every single day to continue serving the community. So we're praying for them and their families, and that they get rest and can continue to serve as they wish to be. And as we move forward, we'll be working with our partners. We have great support, as you've heard. I don't need to repeat them, but we have great support from all of our partners to slowly work together one day at a time and get through this and rebuild Lahaina. We just want to share with you what we see down there regularly, which is there are still tons of hazards in the area. So we highly encourage people to stay out, stay away as things continue to fall and off gas, and there's toxic particulates around that people shouldn't be breathing. So in due time, once the scene is secured, I'm sure you'll be able to get closer to the incident. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chief Ventura. At this time, we'd like to bring up Police Chief John Pelletier.
Aloha. The other day I spoke about three things: patience, prayers, and perseverance. That's what we need. We need that from everyone. That's not everyone in Maui County. That's from the whole world. And as we talk about this process, for you guys that don't know, because you come and you land on a plane and you go to a tourist location, Maui is mostly rural. We've got people that they live on deer and fish, and they grow kalo. And if you don't know what that is, then you look that up. But that's how our families survive here. And the fire took that out. And so we've got a lot of work we've got to do. We got one way in on one side of the island, another way in on the other side of the island. That's a one-way road. And we've got an area that we have to contain that is at least 5 square miles, and it is full of our loved ones. We've got 89 so far. Today, we identified 2. And I want to say this because the great partnerships that we have and that we're forming, and they just started to land today, and they're going to continue to build, but they just got here. And so we're going as fast as we can. But just so you know, 3%, that's what's been searched. with the dogs, 3%. We got 12 more dogs on the way today. We just made that. I made that request. FEMA made that happen. They're on their way. But think about how hot and how humid it is, and we can only go as fast as that animal can go. So we're bringing in more, and we're going to go fast, but we're only going to go as fast as we can go. And so here's something I need people to do. If you've got missing family members, go to the FAC. We need you to do the DNA test. We need to identify your loved ones. So please, the information will be provided, the hours, go down there, take the swab. We will get that, but we can only do it as fast as possible. But we're going to do something, and we're going to do it the right way. There's a word here. It's called pono. It means righteous, doing what's right. You'll see it when you're driving around on the back of the cars. We're going to do this, but we're going to do it pono, because we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it with respect. We're going to do it with aloha. We're going to do it with dignity, because we are Hawaii and we are Maui. God bless you.
Mahalo, Chief Pelletier. At this time, we'd like to bring up General Steve Logan, Dual Status Commander of JTF-50.
Aloha and good afternoon. As introduced, I'm Brigadier General Steve Logan. I'm actually the commander of the Hawaii Army National Guard. I've been a member of that organization for approximately 40 years. This morning, I was appointed with this unique position of Dual Status Commander. And let me go into a little bit about what that entails. This program or this status was developed shortly after Hurricane Katrina. And what it enables us to do is to take forces and capabilities that are resident within the National Guard of each state and territory, and couple that with forces and capabilities that are resident within the active military forces. We normally operate under United States Code Title 32, and the active forces operate under the authority of United States Code Title 10. So by virtue of my appointment here by the Secretary of Defense, nominated by the Governor of the State of Hawaii, I now have command and control authority over both Title 32 and Title 10 forces. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce both my Title 32 Deputy Commander, Colonel David Hatcher, a member of the Hawaii Army National Guard, commander of our largest combat force, the 29th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, and Colonel Dave Fielder, who just got back from Guam. And he is in charge of the Title 10 element for all of the forces that we're going to bring forth to help out the residents of Maui. Let me be clear about this also. We are here in a support role. We're here to support Mayor Bissen, his staff, and the rest of the county agencies, not to take charge and not to take control. So we've spent the day today meeting with Mayor Bissen and his staff, looking at some of the problem sets. And I really want to give a special thanks to Admiral Aquilino, who's the commander of U.S. Indo-PACOM, and General Flynn, who is the commander of United States Army Pacific. They are postured right now with a vast array of active duty forces that are ready to flow into the county of Maui. And so now that we're here on the ground, we look forward to bringing those forces here and bring some relief and support the mayor's efforts here. Thank you.
Mahalo, General Logan. At this time, Captain Asia Kirksey, Sector Commander, U.S. Coast Guard, Sector Honolulu.
Aloha. Since we received the call on Tuesday evening, the Coast Guard has conducted continuous operations, deploying units to search for survivors and also assist our partner agencies in rescuing those in distress. Further, we have deployed highly skilled teams and specialized equipment to closely monitor the marine environmental impacts as a result of the fire. Our teams are conducting marine assessments to identify potential hazards and pollution. To date, over 300 Coast Guard personnel have responded following the fire. Coast Guard search and rescue efforts were continuous for 3 days and covered more than 790 square nautical miles. Coast Guard crews braved a harrowing scene on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning and courageously saved 17 lives, and in coordination with our partners assisted the rescue of 40 more. Further, we've had 3 cutters, 2 aircraft, multiple boats, divers, and specialized teams deployed from across the Coast Guard to support this incident. Now we understand that Lahaina Harbor is the lifeblood of Lahaina. The restoration of this harbor will impact the economy and the well-being of the community. We continue to work with our government and industry partners to expedite this process so that we can restore the waterway for use. The Coast Guard is committed to the safety of the public and of our responders, and our members remain steadfast in our response efforts to help the Lahaina community recover. Thank you.
Mahalo, Captain Kirksey. At this time, Isabella Guzman, Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Aloha. Well, President Biden had delivered the message that he was going to send more than just prayers, that it was also going to be about the assets, the resources of the federal government to fully deploy what Hawaii needs, not only in this response mode where I follow my prestigious federal partners here, but also in the long term with recovery. And that's where the Small Business Administration steps in. We provide not only support to small businesses, as our agency name would suggest, but also to the communities they serve. Their employees, their customers, the entire community, with support from the SBA through financial assistance, affordable loans, low-cost loans to help our renters, our homeowners, our nonprofits, and our businesses that really define Maui. This county is rich in heritage and culture, and so often our front streets, our main streets, our small businesses define that. We want to make sure that that road to recovery is full of the federal resources to respond, to make sure that we ease their decisions into the future, whether that's financial readiness or navigating how to be strategic about your business's relaunch with the small businesses, mentors, and resource partners on the ground, of which we have many here in Maui directly. So I'm very pleased to have come early in this process for the SBA at Senator Hirono's invitation early on, just to make sure that we represent the President's intention that we will be fully deployed, be here for the long run to help ensure that Maui can recover. Thank you so much.
Mahalo, Administrator Guzman. At this time, Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, U.S. Fire Administrator.
Aloha. Hi. Once again, on behalf of President Biden, the U.S. Fire Administration is here to survey the fire and try to understand at the beginning of what we see, what did this fire entail. I can tell you that at first observation today, as we walked through Lahaina, it was a very fast-moving fire. It was a low-to-the-ground fire. It was grass-fed by all evidence that we could observe today, moving at a horizontal nature, low to the ground, and structure to structure. Incredibly fast, that outpaced anything the firefighters could have done in the early hours. With that, I can tell you that the firefighters need to be commended. Heroic actions, absolutely, the stories that we're hearing. I have been in communication with Chief Ventura since the very beginning and talked with some firefighters today and beginning to hear those stories, which you'll continue to hear over time. The unfortunate part about this is that since 2017, the U.S. has experienced the top 10 fires, wildfires in our nation. This now has superseded the Camp Fire from 2018 that was the deadliest. This fire now has become the deadliest in the last 10 years. And so with that, we are here and will continue to advise throughout recovery and into you rebuilding throughout Lahaina to assure that resilience is part of the plan, that we talk about building codes along the way, and that we are also here for your firefighters. We want to make sure that the firefighters are, and their well-being, both physically and that they have access to mental resources as needed as well. So we'll continue to stay in touch with Chief Ventura and lead along your recovery. Thank
you. Mahalo, Dr. Moore Merrill. At this time, U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono.
Aloha, everybody. We are here during a time of grieving and loss. And as you see the number of fatalities continuing to rise, you know that this is a sad time for all of us, but at the same time, we are here to do what we need to do for the recovery. I know that the search efforts are ongoing. I want to thank Governor and the mayor for their leadership, and also for the fact that the federal government is here. And I spoke directly with the president and with Secretary Austin yesterday. They pledged their full support, and in fact, Secretary Austin authorized the creation of the Joint Task Force, which is being led by General Logan. I am here with what we refer to as the federal family of agencies. That would be the Department of Defense, also, of course, FEMA, the USDA, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Energy. We are all here, SBA, everyone, because we know that the recovery efforts will take time and resources. You are all here today to cover the story, but as we recover, I hope that you will continue to tell the story of the resiliency of this community and how we are going to recover, because the continuity of effort and support from all of us is going to be very critical. Mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo, Senator Hirono. Finally, U.S. Representative Jill Tokuda.
Aloha, everyone. You know, I walked through the town today for the first time, and I went to the same place I go every time I go to Lahaina, which is the public library, and it is gone. But I will tell you what gave me infinite hope is that the sign, the wooden sign in front of the library, is there, almost untouched. This is an absolute tragedy we're dealing with as a family here in Hawaii, and people feel it across this country and across this world. And while you hear us all here asking for aloha and patience, please know this too, that we feel the urgency. As we walk through those streets, as we talk to people, we feel that same struggle, that same anxiety, and that same desire to do absolutely everything that we can and in our power to make sure our loved ones, our families are taken care of. Because as a ohana here in Hawaii, as a federal ohana, we are going to bring all our resources to bear to make sure that we are not just there for our people today and in the weeks and the months to come. We are talking about generations to come, years to come, that we will be standing together shoulder by shoulder like this, making sure our people are okay and that we can rebuild that community, support them with the love and support that they need right now. So mahalo to all of our frontliners, all of the members of the public that have stood up just to do something, to be a part of this, because we're going to need your help, not just today, but we're going to need your help for years and years to come. So thank you for being with us. And we're right there with you with the urgency that we all feel to make sure our people and our families are taken care of.
Mahalo, Representative Tokuda. Okay, now I would like to open the floor to questions from the media. I'd like to remind everyone that we welcome all questions, but we kindly ask that you ask them with kindness and aloha. Please raise your hand and await my acknowledgement, at which time you'll be asked to state your name and your news organization before proceeding with asking your question. And in the spirit of allowing everyone in attendance the time to ask a question, hopefully, we kindly ask your kokua in raising one question per media outlet, not per person in attendance. Mahalo nui. Hands up. I'm going to go here.
Governor, we know that residents of Lahaina were starting to go back yesterday. In that presentation, we've been learning about the potential for the release of toxic chemicals. Why were they allowed to go back?
Well, actually, thank you for the question. The question, if you couldn't hear, was why were people allowed to go back toward the community? Really, the intent was to let people traverse that main road to go back and make a quick assessment. We didn't want people to go into ground zero, honestly. And so, though it is a total destruction, there is some need for people to get closure on the experience. I've been there twice. It is changing slightly. It felt much more difficult to breathe 2 days ago than today. Much of the fire that we saw has begun to really settle down. I'm not an expert, but you can see that the ground is settling. We need people to begin to get closure on their experience, but as the Chief of Police said very eloquently, we need to do it safely. And that's why we're going to, just in a staggered way, as we get control of the area so that people don't go down where the fire was worst, we can open up the road. I would tell you this, the devastation is so complete that you see metals twisted in ways that you can't imagine, and you see nothing from organic structures left whatsoever. So for those who want to see it, they probably will have seen everything that can be seen through the lenses of the media today. And if I wanted to make one more comment after all of these very devoted public servants spoke, we're just 4 days in, and I want to just express my astonishment at how quickly people came together to have directors of departments and military entities here thousands of miles away from the mainland here in just our 4th day is extraordinary. And so I'm appreciative that they're spending so much attention and regard for our state that we all love across the globe.
Tom Yamas, NBC News. Governor, is the call up to you? Is it your decision on when to let the residents of Lahaina in? And building off that last question, what is the plan? What's the plan to let them in? Is there a date you can set just so people aren't waiting 15 hours in line?
Sure. Let me be clear. The ultimate decision we are leaving to the mayor. We believe that local government should make these key decisions. Also, we have, at the mayor's request and our team's request, brought in a lot of our military support so that we can support and keep these areas safe. In fact, for many, in fact most, it has tended to be a very calming experience to have additional support when other crises can arise. And that has been my experience with the National Guard when we've gone through tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. But this event was much more catastrophic than any of those. Here.
This is more of a subjective decision than an objective one. So it's not a time element that we're going to give you. When it's safe is up to the experts who are measuring safety. As Gov was talking about why we're letting people in, we're not letting anybody into the impacted zone. Where we were letting people in were those whose homes are still intact, who have to drive the main road to get to their homes. That's what we were allowing. And unfortunately, people, when they first went in, decided to want, maybe out of curiosity or whatever the other reason was, they decided to go in there. It is not safe. It is a hazardous area. And that's why experts are here. FEMA is here to decide for us when it might be safe for us to go back. It's no longer hazardous. We're not doing anybody any favors by letting them back in there quickly just so they can go get sick. That can wait. A lot of what's happening there now is we're asking for the respect and the dignity of recovering anyone that's still there. That's what we're trying to do. That's the main thing we're trying to do right now. That's the phase we're in. We're simultaneously working with all of our partners to try to build our community back, but not letting anybody back in there at all. When we did open the road, the 2 conditions was there was a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and you could not go into that area. And unfortunately, that was not met, that second condition. But also, another fire started. And that created an issue for our first responders by having people on the road. We know our community is anxious to get back to where they live, not to this area, though.
So to be clear, Lahaina is closed for a while.
Downtown Lahaina, yes. But there are other communities that people are still living in. Napili, Kahana, Kapalua. There are other towns outside of Lahaina. Yes, they're still open.
And we'll give you updates daily. With General Logan and his team on board and the large number of officials there, it's going to make it easier, not more difficult for us to open up.
I'm going to hit Ali'i.
Mayor, you spoke about rebuilding. You know, some residents don't want another tourist-reliant community. They want to see more sustainability, not possibly another Waikiki. Your response?
I think that's a decision we'll make with the community. The entire community will make that decision. I don't think we have the final say. These are properties that are still owned by people. The businesses are still owned. The building is not there, but the ownership of the land is still there. So I think a lot of these are individual decisions. How you want to rebuild your home, how you want to rebuild your business. If you want a business, if you don't want that business, I'm not sure we get to decide for other people what to build on their property.
Okay. I'm going to come right back there.
Jonathan Bigliotti with CBS News. Mayor, can I speak with you one more time?
Yes, sir.
We know from speaking with so many survivors, there were no evacuation orders. I know an investigation will yield the answers as to why that happened. You talked about more wildfires, though, popping up around here. the rest of the island safe, considering what happened?
Yeah, I don't think I used the word wildfire, but there were other fires that were smaller that came up. You know, there's a lot of energy you can spend on this tragedy right now. I think that time should be spent on recovery and rebuilding. The investigation will be up to the Attorney General.
But are the other communities safe in the meantime?
Yes. Yes.
Evacuation orders will work.
I just said yes.
I'm going to add a little bit. The largest force at play in that night were 80-mile-per-hour winds. And the winds were, if I can be specific, up to 60 miles per hour, but then gusting to 81 miles per hour. That created an incredibly intense and dangerous circumstance. And so fortunately now, those storms have passed. We're mindful of that. We're doing all that we can to prepare more in the future, of course. And we know that resources will be brought to bear, always. But having seen that storm, we have doubts that much could have been done with a fiery, fast-moving fire like that.
Okay. Go back there.
Bill Weir, CNN. Chief, did you say of the 80...
Which chief?
Police chief. You said of the 89 souls lost, only 2 have been identified, or that's of the recent?
So of the 89, so realize this, we when we find these, you know, our family and our friends, the remains we're finding is through a fire that melted metal. We have to do rapid DNA to identify them. Every one of these 89 are John and Jane Does. And so when you are asking us, and we know we've got to get, and I love the way our House representative, how she said it, she was so eloquent. We know we've got to go quick, but we got to do it right. So when we pick up the remains and they fall apart, and so when you have 200 people running through the scene yesterday, and some of you, that's what you're stepping on. I don't know how much more you want me to describe it. That's what you're stepping on. Give us a little bit of time to contain that. Please. Because we've got to go make 89 notifications. And coming from a place that had to make 58, I understand the pain this is going to take. And we're not done with 89. So just understand what this thing is, because none of us really know the size of it yet. Everybody wants a number. You want it fast or you want it right? We're going to do it right.
I'll go right here. Thank you. This is Consumer for Deutsche Welle Germany. My question is to whoever was responsible for the protocols.
Can you speak up a little bit, my dear?
Yes. My question is regarding the protocols. Can anyone who's responsible for the protocols to alarm people about fires, to alert them about fires, and to set alarms in motion? And can you explain what possibly didn't work? Because people are complaining firsthand that they didn't hear any alarms whatsoever, or that they didn't receive any information in any other way, and they had to just head right to the street as they smelled fire and it was right behind them.
Okay, we got the question.
Sure. This won't be a satisfying answer, and I apologize for that. But the Maui Emergency Management Team makes those protocols. They're not with us today. They're actually out working right now. I will make a few comments, just a few basic comments. There were multiple fires at the same time, and the circumstance was greatly complicated also by the heat and the speed with which the fire spread, destroying a great deal of infrastructure. Over time, we'll be able to figure out if we could have better protected people. That's why we're reviewing everything. We want to do that in a very open and transparent way. But it was complicated by the fact that there were multiple fires across this beautiful island at the same time.
I'm going to repeat the question just so that we can make sure everybody's hearing abroad what we're saying. I'm going to go here.
My name is Dan O'Brien with Akaku Maui Community Media.
we're getting some reports, both anecdotally and directly, about some possible looting that's going on.
Okay.
I was wondering if I could ask the police chief, as his team is working on doing so many other things, has he heard anything about it, and what can be done?
Got it. The question was from Akaku regarding looting.
Great question. I got asked that today. There's a thing for all of you that are not from here. It's called coconut wireless. And what that is it's if you could bottle it up and sell it, you guys are going to be mega billionaires, because it's the speed of which news travels amongst the islands in some aspects. But it's a lot of rumors. And so the reason I say it is we looked into this. We had officers respond to where we thought calls might have been. There was no victim standing by. Not one report was taken. Now, could there have been some of those things and they haven't come up through the reports the proper way? Sure, that's possible. But any of the calls that came into us, we didn't have that. And here's why I mentioned at the very beginning what I said. Patience, prayers, and perseverance. We need patience. We're going to get the resources as fast as we can. This is a united team, one fight. One fight for Maui. We're going to get it. But the fake news, maybe I pissed off somebody when I said fake news, but the fake news is we can't have that. So just report it right.
It's an interesting phenomenon that police chief also shared with me. There's been virtually no conflicts between any of the people of Maui that have survived out abroad, in the community, in our rescue centers. No conflict whatsoever. Total peace. It's very rare to see people working so closely together in spaces so close to one another without any difficulties, and that's, I think, a testament to the values of our people.
All the way back there. Yes. Sorry, right? Yes. Yes. No, back. Not with the hat. You were looking at me. There you go. Yes, you. Yes.
You're not going to like this, but I'm Carter Evans, and I'm from CBS News as well, but I have to ask this question.
Why wouldn't I like this?
Well, because
CBS already asked that question.
Got it. Okay. So you're not playing by the rules, Carter, that we set out.
I apologize that
Okay.
but I want to ask
Carter, hold on. But seriously, Carter, I got to make sure that I do get. I'm not trying to block your question. I just want to make sure that everybody else, if you didn't get to ask a question yet, can you please raise your hand? I will get to Carter when we end. Go ahead.
My name is Haven Daly with the Associated Press. Just to clarify a point regarding the siren towers, and I suppose this would be best for the governor. Were they activated and didn't work properly, or were they never activated?
Okay, so that one I think was asked and answered already. Siren. I'm going to move on. Anybody else have a question? You in the very, very back. Okay. We're going to ask for kindness and aloha. We'll get back to the question. Thank you. Go in the back.
Yeah, my name is Scott Withers from Scripps News for the police chief, sir. You had mentioned that only 3% of the search has been completed. Are those houses, are those large buildings like nursing homes, apartment complexes, or cars? What is that 3%?
Okay, so the question is around the 3% that has been searched and describing the area.
So I'm not going to lie. I don't know the exact 3%. But I do know that it was the 3% was what I was given today when I spoke on the search team.
I understand if it's smaller houses or like we're hearing that nursing homes may have not been evacuated, apartment complexes.
So the mayor had spoke the other day, and he mentioned what is a structure, what is a building. If you got a resident that has 25 units, and so I got that information prior to coming in here. It's very fluid. It's the first time today that we were able to run the dogs. Is the first time. And so we said if something ever happened here, we're 72 hours away from help ever coming. And I think we proved that that's probably pretty accurate.
Okay, Carter, you're up. See, now you're out of shadow, Carter. Go ahead. 1 second. Carter, go ahead and restate your news organization.
I'm Carter Evans with CBS.
Okay.
And I want to ask the governor, and I suspect she wants to ask the same question as well.
Right here?
Yeah.
Are you guys together?
There are studies showing that exactly this type of fire could have happened in Lahaina, caused by a hurricane. What has been done to prepare for and prevent a fire like this from occurring, and why was there no warning?
So the question is, what has been done To prepare for a fire like this, research has showed that this occurrence could likely happen. Fair? Okay.
Yes. So we've been experiencing wildfires for decades here. We've all actually been through wildfires. This is the first time we've ever experienced a wildfire in the context of these dry conditions, global warming, and with a hurricane that's just passing us. We're also seeing, of course, hurricanes cause damage across the globe. The consequence of global warming and storm change is changing things. But we've never had anything like this near a city. We do all that we can to fund our departments at the city and state level. One of the basic problems we have is water management in our county. And I don't mean just Maui County, but across the state. We have a great deal of difficulty having adequate water near structures and keeping land moist. It's extremely difficult in these days. That's one of the main reasons that we saw this fire. And so the things that we're working on, and we work on steadily at all times, is how we're actually going to manage our land. It's a very complicated balance between having enough housing for our people, having enough safe spaces, having open spaces. We've also had a major transition as far as agriculture goes. All of these factors contribute to risk, but it's never happened before. We do have a well-prepared fire team across the state. Whether or not we can do better will be determined. There's no question this catastrophe is going to change the way everyone looks at fire across the globe.
Mahina, this individual? Who was raising their hand back here? All the way in that. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Wayne Martinez, Fox News. Many of these homes, we believe, have been handed down from one generation to the next. Do we have any idea what percentage might not have carried insurance and how that might compare to somewhere like California?
So the question is around how many homes may not have carried insurance. Okay, that's a tough question.
We can tell you that the great percentage of the structures have been residential, okay? That's one thing. And two, we want to tell you also those who do have insurance are going to get relief quickly. We'll have from our departments, from our administration, the insurance commissioner on site with his teams, looks like Tuesday. We're also working and going to be reaching out to other states that have experienced similar difficulties like Colorado. And we thank Governor Polis for giving us advice on this matter. One of the challenges we have in rural communities, not just on Maui, but also on Big Island, a lot of people build unpermitted smaller structures on their properties that aren't insured ever because they haven't gone through the permitting process. There's a lot of multi-generational families that live in our rural areas because there's a significant amount of poverty in rural communities in Hawaii. That makes it very difficult. The benefits that we can give people mostly come through insurance and then through FEMA. Those who don't have any other benefits, the state does intend to be extremely generous, and that means for all people that have been part of our ohana, individuals that come that are considered kofa individuals that have been working in our farms and in our communities. Hawaii is going to be a state that takes care of all of its people, and so we will find ways to shelter individuals. As you know, homelessness and housing is one of our top priorities right now.
All right, I'm going to come down here. I fear that I may not get to everybody, so I apologize. I'm going to come down here.
Thank you for taking my question. Mitch Smith with the New York Times. To what extent is the current relief on West Maui relying on kind of volunteers and ad hoc donations as opposed to government aid? And to the chief's point about kind of taking 72 hours for help to really arrive, how might that shift in the coming days here?
Okay, so the first question, which I'm going to proceed with, is the volunteers versus federal aid. Is that accurate?
Government aid. Right.
Government aid. Okay. Can we start there?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we're going to ask our FEMA experts to talk about government aid first.
First thing I want to say is that we here at FEMA, we have an office in Honolulu, in Oahu, and so we have teams that are embedded here all the time because we do know and recognize the time and distance challenges of getting resources here. We also have a distribution center here that has commodities, and since 2018, we have had an increase in the number of commodities, 5 times the number of commodities, so we can have them on hand on the island, able to distribute around impacted areas for the different events that happen. We happen to have our regional administrator that was here on the island before this happened, and so we were able to quickly integrate in with the state emergency management staff to begin understanding what the needs were going to be and start moving resources. We will continue to bring in resources with our other federal partners. One of our primary partners is the Department of Defense, and they also have a large presence here, and we're able to help immediately after this happened, as well as the Coast Guard, who has a large presence, as you heard from the captain of the port earlier. And so the federal family has a footprint here on the islands, so they can come in and respond quickly, start those life-saving efforts, which are the most important. As we go into the life-sustaining piece of this, that's when we start to surge that up and bring in additional capability, and we have continued to do that over the last several days.
I want to add a little bit to that on the local response. What I think you're referring to is just the love and the outpouring of help that we've gotten. We have had so much response from our own local community and those around the state. So whether they acted quicker than government could have acted, I'm not sure, but I can tell you that it's been overwhelming. I think it's more been a combination of both that have happened. Government probably does move slower than a private citizen who runs to the store, buys something, and drops it off. We've had so many stories of that, so I wouldn't say one was better than the other. They were working together, and that's one of the beauty of what's happened in this community is everyone who's come together, from Molokai, Lanai, using boats, getting people over here, trying to figure out ways around the closure of the roads. So there's a lot more to this than maybe has been explained to you. So that's what's happening.
Until McConnell comes back up, so response is pretty quick this time. The turnaround was 6 hours and 10 minutes between the time that my team and I finished the emergency request to the president and the time that President Biden approved it. 6 hours. Also, just so everyone knows, we've raised tens of millions of dollars. The Hawaii Community Foundation has essentially more than $20 million that they can float in and out of the community. I'm committed to paying for whatever transition costs are necessary to get people housed. We also do have incredible charity coming and donations in the form of housing and hotel units, which we hope to have people in the next 48 hours into at no cost. So we're going to do everything to unburden those who have survived but have struggled and suffered so terribly.
Thank you. So 2 more questions.
Hi, Paula Ramon from AFP. I was going to apologize because I really didn't listen the answer regarding the sirens. So today we listened residents and yesterday as well. They questioned that, they asked about that because it was a concern. They didn't listen to the sirens. So what happened there? It was activated, it didn't work properly.
The question is around the sirens and was it activated, working, etc. We'll take a quick question on that.
So I can add to a little bit of the process. The Maui Emergency Management Agency makes notifications to the public via the means your folks are asking about. The request for that has to come through the field, and as Dr. Mayo had talked about earlier, the speed at which this fire moved so quickly that we don't know the condition of the infrastructure as it moved through the neighborhood rapidly, and then that the message get back quickly enough, and that somebody could have to go to a computer and make a notification, all in that little amount of time that they had. So, again, it's not our agency's responsibility, but that's the process of which how it happens.
So we don't know what really happened yet.
Okay. Final question. I'm going to go here. Name and organization. Sorry, go.
Governor Green, this is Eddie Dow with Hawaii News Now. There's a lot of frustration among local residents about visitors on island. I know there was efforts to get thousands off the island, but some feel those who remain are hampering relief efforts by the community. Do you feel it's time for all visitors remaining on Maui to leave for the time being? And do you have any message for visitors who still plan to come to this island as scheduled?
The question is around visitors still on Maui and the thoughts around that and any messages as it relates to visitors currently on Maui.
So our entire focus is on the recovery in West Maui. I've never seen an operation activated in this large a fashion to any of the disasters that we've ever had. The scope and scale of military and FEMA honestly is astounding. a lot of visitors are leaving kind of in a regular cadence. We also had to, of course, have enough airplane seats to get people evacuated. I, at this point, don't think that visitors are impairing anything that we're doing. They're not blocking roads. We do have frustrations about the few visitors who decided they wanted to come and see a site, which we find to be toxic to us as our people have suffered. But that's very few people. There are two considerations at least. One is the safety of all of our first responders as they deal with really difficult conditions because of the nature of this disaster, high temperature fire. The other consideration is all of our people will need to survive, and we can't afford to have no jobs or no future for our children. We wrestled with this during COVID and did a very good job, better than other states, but we did have to balance the fact that when you restrict any travel to a region, you really devastate its own local residents in many ways, more than anyone else. So one of the things that we intend to do is we intend to put our residents into hotels so that the hotels themselves can stay open. The state will pay for those costs. The federal government will pay for those costs. Those individuals will very likely be workers at those hotels. It will make it easier for them to focus on the recovery. But we don't want other businesses after this devastation to leave, and also leave other parts of Maui devastated. That wouldn't be okay. I will say that it's going to be a very long time before tourism returns, of course, to anywhere near the levels it was in West Maui. It's all hands on deck, and I don't just mean our state and our federal government. It means all the people across the globe. As this is the last question, I'll just say this.
Actually, I'm going to answer part of that too.
Yes.
I'm going to answer part of that.
Oh, there's a second to last comment. Just really want to say thank you to all of you who have been patient with us and who are covering this so that the people across the world can see this place that they love, how it's struggling and suffering right now, and how, if you value Hawaii, if you love the spirit of aloha, if you love our people as we know you do, not only be patient with the travel, but also support us in the future. Support us and believe in us when we welcome you back. That is important to us. And we've had support. In the first day, we had 70,000 people send support to just one of the entities that was raising money for the survivors and the recovery. We've never seen anything like that, and that's an indication of how much people across the world value Hawaii. So we will rebuild Hawaii together here and with you, but it's going to take time.
I wish I could leave it there, but I have to challenge the premise of your question. Again, that's another subjective question. Many of our residents make their living off of tourism, number one. Secondly, it's not the number of tourists that people are upset at. It's when people are disrespectful when they go to anywhere, not just Maui. Pick any other state, for those of you who live in states that have tourism. It's when it impacts people on the roads. It's when people are rude. It's when people don't show that respect that they've come to someone's home. They're visiting someone's home. This isn't Disneyland that's created for something. This is where people live and survive and work. So I don't think anybody has a problem with visitors. I think people have problems with rude visitors, just like you would anywhere, any of you, wherever you live. So I think that's the issue more, is whether somebody is not being respectful wherever they're going to. And part of that just showed itself the other day when people decided to go to this area the way they did. But I will say that South Maui is open. Kihei and Wailea is open. Maui is not closed. West Maui is under contamination in certain areas, and we're trying to protect people from going back there. I appreciate the question.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes.
visitors cannot control themselves, how can they?
Thank you. Aloha, everyone. Mahalo for coming. This concludes the news conference. We appreciate you. Please be safe. Mahalo. And may you all keep Maui in your prayers. Mahalo. Mayor.
That's fair to say.